Unfiltered. Today we have Mitch and Nat, and we're going to be talking about HOA Estoppel letters and municipal lien searches.
So, of course, we usually need these on every single transaction. Of course, each contract is going to determine, if we have a homeowners association based off of the addendum that's provided. And if that's the case and a title's calling for it, then obviously all those reports are ordered. So I love the lien search and I love our Estoppel reports. They're pretty clear and easy, friendly to read. And they go over a couple of items, right? So of course we have our municipal lien search, which checks for municipalities with the counties. We go over property taxes if they've been paid for, utility balances, code enforcement issues, permits, and of course if there's any like foreclosure information that we need to know about. So I love it because it gives you clear and indicating taxes have been paid, exactly. If there's a permit, it gives you contact information. It tells you what the permit is for, when it was issued, and then what further needs to be done to complete that or get that closed out prior to closing.
Utility bills.
Utility bills. Oh my goodness, utility bills. So not everybody knows this, but utility balances can negatively affect the property. Meaning, if you have a tenant and they haven't paid the utility balances, 9 out of 10 times the seller's gonna get stuck paying that bill.
Unfortunately, guys.
Unfortunately, it's not because we don't want you guys to, or we want you guys to. It's how it works. So the municipalities obviously grant these utility companies the power to lien against the properties. So basically meaning you can owe $100 today, $1,000 tomorrow, and the county is like, you know what, you guys have the green light, go ahead. They file a lien, you now owe that money against the property, whether it's yours or not. It can follow the social, it can follow all the individuals, but at the end of the day, the services are provided on the property, therefore the property is liable.
And this can go back to like many years
I've
back,
had
guys.
cases from like 1999, so imagine.
So it is very important that when you're doing a closing transaction, that a municipal lien search is requested and that you get a copy of that document and you're able to review it.
Exactly.
Just to make sure that your buyer is getting a clear title.
Yeah, we want to make sure that they are not inheriting any previous debts from any prior owners.
Yes.
So that leads us to obviously going over code enforcement issues. That could basically mean they haven't cut their grass in a really long time. So the county's like, hey, homeowner, you have 1 violation, 2 violations. By the 3rd time, maybe the 4th time that you're not responding, the county's not going to place a code enforcement lien against your property for handling that for you, you know?
Even broken cars in front of the house, that can create a code enforcement lien against the property.
Broken windows too, I've had, obviously high grass, any kind of outstanding violations, even if you paint a color and it's not acceptable. I mean, it's like could be the most minute item, and if the county notifies you and you don't handle it within a certain time period,
there will be consequences, guys.
Definitely. That also goes over permitting. So you guys put up a new fence, you guys put solar panels. Let's see, you guys.
Roof.
Oh, the roof is like a huge one, of
Yes.
course. So that will definitely bring to our attention that there is a permit against the property, which usually means that something's going to be reflected on title as well. But that's what mostly a municipal lien search kind of goes over. Again, specifying over those categories, detailed items as to what's going on with that specific property or that specific transaction. Then we have our HOA Estoppels.
Yes, guys. So do you know what an HOA Estoppel is? So if you don't know, it is a letter or a report that we received from the association specifying what the assessments are, the frequency of the assessments, if there's any transfer fees.
Buyer approval.
Yes.
Buyer
I actually
approval.
got a file right now with a buyer's approval.
Oh, yeah.
We also verify if the association is delinquent, if there's any violations. So going back to violations, a lot of associations, if the property's not kept
up to par, really.
Yes.
It could be something so small. You left the
flowers.
Oh, the flowers, the paint. I've had clients where the door was dirty and they're like, you need to pressure wash. Always it's like the pressure washing, like pressure wash the sidewalk, pressure wash the home.
So all those details will come in that HOA Estoppel, and part of our job is to make sure that it is clear before the closing happens, because we definitely don't want the buyer taking over all these issues that don't belong to them.
Of course, and then also it tells us if we need to collect assessments in advance.
Or capital contributions.
Or
Yes.
transfer fees too. So it gives us a
A
huge
lot
list
of information
of
that is
information.
very important and vital for the transaction.
Correct.
So now that we talked about both reports and what they entailed, it is very important, guys, that when you get that contract executed, if there is an association, that it is listed on that contract. I believe there's a section where you can check off if there's any addendas that are part of that contract. Because a lot of the times we don't have access to the MLS, and we won't know this information unless we're told or once we receive our title commitment. But things can happen, guys. Sometimes our underwriter can miss that there is an association. So if we're not notified, we won't know that. And that can definitely cause an issue with the transaction at the time of closing.
Definitely. Then we don't want that to happen. We want to make sure we're informed ahead of time, so we can order what's needed. So that's also too why it's super important to have a lien search on every single transaction, regardless if it's a vacant lot, a new construction, pre-existing. We want to get that covered because you never know what's on there. It could be that it was a new construction and the permits were never closed out, or
the builder, which happens all the time. The builder forgets to close out the permits,
and guess what? You're so liable. Yeah, and that sucks because it's not their responsibility. So they're like, but we're not the owners at this point. But now you currently are, so we have to take care of that prior to the new owner taking possession of the property. We want to make sure that we're collecting any utility balances from the previous owners or the previous tenants, get that covered. So there's just so many little intricacies that we want to make sure that we don't have, issues with the buyers moving forward, so they can have their property free and clear.
And also know that both of these reports have different costs depending on the municipality of the property and also the homeowners association company. There's average between
things like what, like $250 for the Estoppel.
I mean, they could go anywhere to $1,000, even more, depending on the amount.
Depending on how many associations they can each charge, depending if the account is delinquent. I mean, the list goes on. And it's same thing with the lien searches. Yeah. I mean, each lien search, each county is different. If there's expired permits, that can vary. If there's gonna be reinspection charges, new application charges. So there's just so many fees involved that we always want to provide to the clients up front, copies of those reports, copies of those invoices, whatever we've paid in advance. We want to show and, obviously demonstrate to everyone, like, listen, these are the actual true costs. This is what's reflected on your settlement statement. We're paying and we're handling that at closing. It's always disclosing your ALTA, and I always tell clients, especially when there's a past due balance, because sometimes they have issues turning on their power after they close. And
because of outstanding utility balance.
I've actually had a couple of clients call me back saying, hey, I ran my information, but they won't give me service because there's a past due balance. So I tell them, listen, on whatever page on your ALTA, could be 2 or 3, you can see a description, utility balance to whoever it may be, payable to them, so they can understand, like, payments on the way, guys, payments on the way. So they can get their power turned on, and it's helped. It's been very, very helpful, especially when we're, open and honest with them at closing. Like, listen, we're handling this today. If you have any issues, here's your proof. If you have any further complications, give us a call.
And don't be afraid to ask for copies of these reports and even the invoices, guys, because we get audited every year. So we need to make sure that those invoices are matching exactly what we're collecting at the closing table. We cannot over collect. So if the invoice says $100, we are going to collect. So don't be afraid. Make sure you ask for those reports before closing. Take 2 to 3 minutes, guys. It does not take a long time to review them. If you have questions, we are here. Give us a call. We don't have any problem in going over page by page if needed.
Literally.
So Mitch, I think we've given them enough information.
I think we did.
We want to keep this short and sweet for you guys so that it could be easy to understand. We don't want to make it too long so that you get bored. So we're gonna wrap this up. If you have any questions, if you need anything, give us a call, guys. 407-537-9513. We have 4 office locations for your convenience. Feel free to also check out our website, simply-title.com, so that you can get more information on what we do, how we do it, and where we are.
Everywhere.
Literally.
So if you want to know something further or something more in detail, give us a call as well. We're more than happy to get that ready for you guys for the next episode. And then, of course, What happens here is on a day-to-day transaction with simply title. This is not to be considered as legal advice. If you do have any further questions, please go ahead and give us a call back, and we can address those issues, okay?
Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episode.
Bye, guys.
Bye.